Okay, so here's the picture in 1 Samuel 15. God tells, through Samuel the prophet, tells King Saul, go and destroy the Amalekites. Now, that on face value sounds like, what? Why would God want to do that? But let me give you a little bit of historical background. I don't know that we'll ever fully know until we are in God's presence, but here's what it says. We know that when Israel came out of Egypt and crossed the Red Sea and through the desert and received the Ten Commandments on their way to the Promised Land, that while they're camping, they get waylaid by the Amalekites. It's kind of a cheap shot. They know they're fleeing Egypt, and they kind of take advantage of that, and they attack them and steal a lot of their stuff and kill a lot of their people. And so God swears, if you read it back in the Old Testament, he swears on that day that he will wipe out the Amalekites for doing this. Well, Israel doesn't really get around to it. They don't end up, when they take the Promised Land, they don't end up destroying or devoting the Amalekites. And to that day, the day of King Saul, they're still a thorn in their flesh. They're still causing problems for Israel. And so God says, now it's time to finish the job. Finish the job of the Amalekites. I want you to make a point here that their disobedience pays a price tag. I want you to wipe out Amalekite culture. Utterly destroy it. Devote it to me. And of course, Saul, it says, takes his troops and conquers the Amalekites. In fact, he destroys them, pushes them all the way back to the borders of Egypt. But they hold back on two things. Two things. One, he keeps King Agag. Now, this was not uncommon. Even when you would conquer a great enemy, sometimes you would show mercy to the king so that if he ever came back in power, or his heirs or his lineage ever came back in power, they might show mercy to you. It was kind of like, okay, I'll take care of you, but if we ever get beat by you guys, you'll take care of me, Saul, and my family. So he holds back Agag, number one. And then number two, it says they take the best of the booty. The good sheep, the good cattle. It's like they destroy everything except the good stuff. And there they go back to the ancient warfare model of, well, we defeated them, so we get their stuff. This is a picture of humanity in our brokenness and sin. We like to take the booty, the spoils of war. Now, we're fine when the finances are flowing and everything's great. We give to the Lord and pretend devotion. But oftentimes it's in these crisis moments that we show our true colors. The good stuff we end up keeping for ourselves. Are you like that? Am I like that? Do I pretend total devotion, but I hold back the last 10%, the good stuff? Well, that's the sin of Saul, the sin of Israel, and the sin of semi-devotion throughout the ages. We all do it. Well, the second question I want to ask is, when I get caught, when I get exposed as semi-devoted, how will I respond? Because that's the second thing we see here in this story about King Saul. It's one thing to hold back the best, but what happens when your withholding gets discovered, as it did here by the prophet Samuel? And I want you to see in a second here how different King David was when he got caught from King Saul. It's what distinguishes them. Both of them held back from God. Both of them did some pretty horrible stuff. Honestly, Saul only kept a foreign king alive and let his men take some of the good sheep and oxen, etc. David did some horrific things. He has a guy basically executed on the battlefield so he can steal his wife. This is pretty bad. But what I want you to see here is how both of them respond when they get shown to be semi-devoted. I'm going to read from 1 Samuel 15, the passage we've been studying. I'm going to read starting in verse 12 through verse 14, just a quick section here. It says that after all this happened, Samuel rose early to meet Saul in the morning, and it was told Samuel, Saul went to Carmel, and behold, he set up a monument for himself and turned and passed on and went down to Gilgal. So Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said to him, Blessed be you to the Lord. I have performed the commandment of the Lord. And Samuel said, Then what is this bleating of sheep in my ears and the lowing of oxen that I hear? So Samuel's coming to confront Saul with his semi-devotion. Saul's off building a monument to himself. And in fact, he leaves Carmel and he's going down to Gilgal, and Samuel has to chase after him. And the amazing thing, did you hear Saul's response? I did it. I did what I was supposed to. God told me to destroy I beat the Amalekites. Oh my. And so Samuel says, then if you did what God told you to do, then why do I hear the lowing of cattle and the bleating of sheep in my ear? It's a great question. It's a great question. The amazing thing here is that Saul actually pretends that he obeyed the Lord. I did it. I followed his instructions. I did what you said. And Samuel has to say, then why am I hearing the booty? Why do I hear the stuff you've kept? Okay, so listen how he responds. I'm going to start in verse 15. Saul said to Samuel, Oh, they have brought those from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen to sacrifice to the Lord your God, but the rest we have devoted to destruction. Then Samuel said to Saul, Stop. I will tell you what the Lord said to me this night. And Saul said to him, Speak. Samuel said, Though you are little in your own eyes, are you not the head of the tribes of Israel? The Lord anointed you king over Israel, and the Lord sent you on a mission and said, Go devote to destruction the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are utterly consumed. Why then did you not obey the voice of the Lord? Why did you pounce on the spoil and do what was evil in the sight of the Lord? And Saul replied, I have obeyed the Lord. I have gone on the mission on which the Lord sent me. I brought Agag, the king of Amalek, and I have devoted the Amalekites to destruction. But the people, they took the sheep and the oxen, the best of the things that were supposed to be devoted. They did it. Isn't that incredible? What a little weasel. When confronted with the clear evidence that he had not fully obeyed God, Samuel finally just says, Stop. God made you king. He gave you one clear mission, one thing you were supposed to accomplish. It wasn't unclear. It wasn't complicated. He didn't say kill some of the Amalekites, keep these 45 people. Destroy everything, utterly destroy it, tear them. And still Saul denies. Well, yeah, I did that. I did the mission that you sent me for. This is a portrait of oxymoronic faith, of semi-devotion. Keeping the good stuff and pretending that we've obeyed the Lord.